Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And as you know, we're having a HIPAA compliance today. So I'm going to start by doing a HIPAA compliance workshop. Sorry. So I'm going to start by doing a small intro. So my name is Anna. I am a talent experience manager at BEON, and I will be one of the presenters today alongside Nicholas Mitchells and Vitor Carareto. We wanted to start just by welcoming you to our HIPAA compliance workshop, which also has a great focus on what BEONers need to know. And, thank you so much for being here, and we hope you enjoy the following presentation. If we move to the next slide, please. So to begin, let's discuss why the importance of implementing HIPAA in BEON. So why to implement HIPAA in BEON? The answer is that HIPAA non-compliance can result in the loss of potential business opportunities with healthcare clients because clients prioritize working with companies that show a strong commitment to protecting patient data and maintaining compliance with HIPAA regulations. So by upholding strict privacy and security measures, companies can showcase their dedication to safeguarding sensitive information. Non-compliance may raise concerns about data protection and deter healthcare clients from partnering with such entities. In other words, it can stop a particular healthcare provider or client that works within this industry from partnering with us, and that is obviously not what we want. So we really want to focus our energy into becoming compliant, not only for BEON but also for our clients. Ensuring HIPAA compliance is essential for building trust and fostering positive relationships within the healthcare industry, while also allowing us as a company to capitalize on business opportunities in the healthcare sector. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our agenda, our workshop is divided into 3 sections. So the first section, it holds everything about understanding HIPAA. Second section is to take you through the key HIPAA rules, agreements and rules and importance. And the third section involves HIPAA compliance for BEONers, which includes some recommendations for you to remain compliant, within BEON and also our clients. Next slide, please. So understanding HIPAA, let's move along to the first section. So HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, and is highly relevant when working with healthcare clients because it sets strict standards for safeguarding patient-sensitive health information, which is PHI, protected health information, and ensuring data privacy and security. So as you know, in most of our cases, developers, in this case, you BEONers, work directly with the client, and BEON as a company may not have direct interaction with PHI, protected health information. However, we do understand the significance of educating and raising awareness on HIPAA. That is why we work towards ensuring compliance in every BEONer, because it fosters a culture of data privacy and security. Meaning, the overall idea here is that understanding HIPAA empowers all of us, not only from, like a technical perspective, but every person involved, to uphold the highest standards of privacy, and helps to reinforce trust with our clients and uphold our responsibility as a reliable partner in the healthcare industry. So what is HIPAA? HIPAA is a significant federal law enacted in 1996, whose primary purpose is to establish national standards for safeguarding sensitive health information and ensuring the privacy and security of patients' data. So HIPAA applies to healthcare providers, to health plans, to healthcare clearinghouses, which are covered entities, as well as their business associates who handle protected health information on their behalf. So this law sets strict guidelines for the use, disclosure, and protection of health information, promoting the efficient and secure exchange of this health information. So compliance with HIPAA is crucial to maintaining patient trust and confidentiality in the healthcare industry. So moving along to the HIPAA objectives. So the primary goals and objectives of HIPAA are to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of patients' health information, to promote the efficient and secure exchange of health information, to establish national standards for electronic health transactions, and to enforce safeguards to protect against unauthorized access and disclosure of health data. So all of this, working together makes it, that it's basically a cycle that we need to follow and rules that we need to, stand by in order to ensure that any health information, patient related, is kept private and secured to avoid any disclosures, at all time. Like that's the essential objective of HIPAA. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what's protected health information? PHI. So any individually identifiable health information transmitted or maintained by covered entities are PHI. Some examples of PHI are name, address, contact details like phone number and email address, social security number or any other unique identifiers, medical records, diagnosis, and treatment information, plus payment and billing information related to the healthcare services. We have also multiple types of information covered under HIPAA. So some of them are paper-based records and documents containing PHI. So this is mostly seen, for example, at a hospital or a healthcare provider environment. So one of the main forms in which hospitals or this, healthcare providers maintain this information secured, paper-based specifically, is by using a crosscut shredder or a destroyer, meaning, any of the records that was written and was handled within a hospital needs to be destroyed in order to ensure HIPAA compliance. We also have electronic protected health information, EPHI, which is stored in databases or electronic health systems. So to protect this kind of information, encryption is mainly used. But as we move forward within the workshop, more information about it will be provided. So stay tuned. And finally, we have verbal communications with patients that include PHI. So examples of this could be, voice notes, messages, and specifically verbal communication like doctor-patient conversation. So one of the most important rules that need to be followed by doctors is to have conversations on a private setting, always to ensure HIPAA compliance. Now, why is health information protected? So we're referencing to protected health information, PHI. So health information is protected to make sure that we are safeguarding patient privacy and dignity, that we are preventing identity theft and fraud. So like imagine having your social security number or ID robbed. That translates to a big number of processes to follow just to recover it, while also hoping that our information wasn't used for anything yet to avoid further complications. So, just thinking about that, it's such a pain. We definitely need to prevent identity theft at all costs. We also protect health information to build trust within healthcare providers and patients, meaning, for example, if you attend, a healthcare provider and come to know that your health information was disclosed by a staff member without your consent, you will not trust that organization anymore and won't go back there. Plus, we also need to ensure that we comply with legal requirements to avoid penalties. For example, if your health information was disclosed without your consent, this could lead to a penalty. And after reviewing penalties, let me tell you, with those high numbers, we don't want to go there. So with that, I conclude the first section, which is understanding HIPAA. Now we're going to be moving along to the key HIPAA agreement and rules presented by Nicholas Mitchell. So I'll leave you guys with him.
Thanks, Anna. Well, nice to meet you. For the guys I didn't have a chance to chat with before, I'm a software engineer working for the Simple Practice project, which is a software provider for the healthcare industry. So now we're going to take a look at how HIPAA is structured in terms of agreements and rules. First of all, we are going to take a look at the business associate agreement. Essentially, we as a company play a role as a business associate. Some of our clients are considered business associates as well, because usually they are not one of the originally covered entities. But this specific agreement was introduced by a rule which extended the liability for compliance for business associates as us and our clients most of the times. So it is essentially a contract that determines the responsibilities for PHI. It will also contain some permitted uses and disclosures for PHI. If you are working with a client from the healthcare industry, very likely you'll have to sign one of these contracts. And it's important to mention that having the BAA demonstrates our commitment to maintaining overall PHI confidentiality and integrity. Next slide, please. Well, as we've mentioned before, we contain some of the permitted uses and disclosures of PHI on the BAA. As other fundamental components, we also have some requirements in order to safeguard both electronic PHI and PHI. It will also contain procedures on how to properly report a security incident or a breach. And finally, it will also contain the details on how the contract itself can be terminated. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now we are going to take a look at one of the most fundamental rules for HIPAA, which is the privacy rule. It aims to essentially determine how the covered entities will handle PHI. This way, granting the patients with their essential rights. It also enforces standards on how to protect PHI, and it aims to promote trust in healthcare providers. It is fundamental to be compliant in order to maintain the patient's privacy and security, and to play an ethical role in healthcare practices. Next slide, please. So here are some examples of permitted uses and disclosures of PHI. The most essential permitted use and disclosure is in order to provide patients with health care. It can also be used or disclosed in order to process insurance claims or perform billing workflows. And it can also be used for training, legal and compliance purposes, as well as for quality assessments. Next slide, please. We have also the security rule, which is more focused on electronic PHI. Forgot to mention that if you are a software engineer, for example, access to a specific PHI can be granted to you in order to investigate and, for example, in production issue that is very specific to a client data. So this is one example of possible PHI disclosure. We have, sorry, can you move back one, please? Thank you. So the security rule, as the privacy rule is one of the fundamental rules focused on electronic PHI, it applies both to the originally covered entities, healthcare plans, healthcare clearinghouses, and business associates who process electronic data. It aims to guarantee the confidentiality and integrity of the electronic health data. And it has some safeguards that we are taking a look in the next slides. So here are the most important types of safeguards that the security rule contains. The administrative safeguards will contain policies, procedures, and describe possible ways for providing training. We have also physical safeguards, which means that we need to control and secure physical facilities that have access to electronic PHI. And finally, technical safeguards consist of properly authorizing and authenticating access to electronic PHI, as well as applying encryption when needed. Next slide, please. Well, we talked a lot about rules that aim to prevent security incidents and breaches, but we also have a rule that aims to handle these cases. So the breach notification rule applies both to covered entities and business associates. It's important to mention that a security incident or a breach must be reported both to the individuals affected by the incident and the United States Department of Health and Human Services. This rule aims to ensure transparency and accountability in the case of a security incident, and it also enables the affected individuals to take any possible or necessary actions that they might need to take. Next slide, please. Thank you. Well, here are the steps to properly respond to a security breach. First of all is to contain or mitigate the side effects of a breach. Second step is to identify the affected individuals. And third step is to properly notify, as we mentioned before, the HHS, the affected individuals, and depending on the size of the breach, the media should be notified as well. Well, this is part 2, where I'll handle it to Vitor Carareto for part 3.
Thanks, Nicholas. First of all, I'm Vitor. I'm working in the backend team in Spine Zone project, which is one of the BEON healthcare clients. So now we'll focus on what HIPAA compliance means for us BEONers. So let's dive into our specific roles and responsibilities. So each BEONer plays a critical role in ensuring HIPAA compliance when working with healthcare clients. So it's essential that we handle PHI and ePHI securely. For instance, we should never store PHI in our personal devices or unsecured platforms. Next, we must adhere to the terms of our business associate agreements, as well as any security protocols set by the client. It's also good practice to regularly review those documents to make sure we remain compliant. Attending training sessions on HIPAA requirements is also very important to raise the team's awareness on the topic. And we also need to cooperate in any security assessments or audits initiated by our clients and promptly report any security incidents. Next slide, please. Training is fundamental to HIPAA compliance. That's why we're having this workshop to share the essential knowledge about HIPAA. Another example, phishing training sessions could also help to raise the employees' awareness to recognize and respond to phishing attempts. Additionally, we want to foster a culture of privacy and security consciousness among the team so that they can make informed decisions, promoting a secure and privacy-conscious work environment in line with HIPAA regulations. Next slide, please. Securing PHI is a top priority, so we must comply to some security measures as follows. Regarding passwords, consider adhering to strong password policies. For example, a minimum length of 10 characters, but ideally 16 characters, including a mix of letters, numbers, special characters. Update passwords once every 3 months. And an additional security measure about passwords is to avoid using the same password for multiple accounts. And a password manager can be very helpful to follow all those rules. Handling PHI in a secure way is the must. So encryption for data at rest and in transit serves as an important layer of protection. For example, for data at rest, we need to make sure that it's encrypted, like databases, file storages, like S3 buckets or any other storage service. For data in transit, make sure it's secured by SSL or TLS. And it's also important to secure APIs to further safeguard sensitive information. For example, using a firewall to filter out malicious traffic before they reach the API, as well as rate limiting and detailed logging to be able to review in case of suspicious activities. Secure access I'll go back one slide, please. Yeah, thank you. About secure access controls and authentication, we should enforce user authentication and role-based access to restrict data access to authorized personnel only, thus employing the principle of least privilege, restricting access of authorized users only to the minimum necessary data. Also, it's very important to use multi-factor authentication as an additional layer of security, so requiring more than one verification method like a password and security token. And lastly, performing regular software updates and patch management is very important to address vulnerabilities and reduce potential risks. Applying patches and updates as soon as they become available helps us to promptly address security vulnerabilities. Regularly access software components and third-party libraries for potential security risks. For example, we could periodically review used libraries in the code base to identify outdated components with known vulnerabilities and plan for applying updates. And notice that updated versions may be incompatible with current code base, so it may require some adjustments, and we need to plan for that. And another good approach is to automate that process, implementing automated scans in the continuous integration process. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about incident response. Immediate containment of incident is crucial. For example, disconnecting the affected system from the network to prevent a breach from being spread and affecting other systems. Prompted reporting is also very important, aiming to notify the client or any internal security team. We must also cooperate with the client, assessing the extent of a breach, which often requires to share logs and findings with the client for a more complete analysis. And for instance, we could establish protocols with the client for rapidly handling security incidents and data breaches, and also encourage open communication and reporting of any potential breaches or security concerns with the client. We also need to timely notify affected individuals in case of an incident, and it may also be necessary to notify authorities like the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Next slide, please. So as we have seen in the previous slide, rapidly reporting security incidents or breaches is very important. Early reporting minimizes the impact and potential harm of incidents. Timely mitigation efforts help to prevent further damage and protect sensitive data. Swift action can be taken to investigate and identify the root cause and the extent of the breach, so affected parties can take necessary steps to safeguard their information. Additionally, reporting demonstrates a commitment to transparency and HIPAA compliance, and helps to build trust between the owners and healthcare clients through a more proactive approach. Next slide, please. Privacy by design is a fundamental concept in software development, highlighting the significance of prioritizing privacy and security aspects right from the beginning of the development lifecycle. It empowers developers to proactively build privacy-conscious applications, fostering trust, compliance, and a more robust defense against potential privacy breaches. It highlights the need for developers to embed privacy principles into the architecture and foster and features of the software they create. By adopting this approach, developers can ensure that data protection measures are integrated into the software, thus enhancing the security of sensitive information, such as protected health information. And here are some examples of privacy by design principles. We can use the most restrictive privacy settings by default, requiring users to consent or opt in before collecting and processing their data, and also limit the access to PHI to only authorized people. Next slide, please. Maintaining audit trails and monitoring helps us to detect suspicious activities. So we should keep track of access, modifications, and data interactions to detect any unusual behavior. For example, logging database interactions to be able to trace down potentially malicious activity and monitor system activities to identify potential security incidents. For example, a spike in the network traffic could mean a potential security breach. Regularly review audit logs to ensure compliance and identify potential security incidents. For example, checking suspicious activity in the logs, like attempts of SQL injection and so on. Next slide, please. It's important that we adhere to secure coding practices to avoid vulnerabilities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and other common security flaws. For example, whenever possible, it's best to use industry standard libraries instead of implementing it on your own, because they have been tested by many people and are much less likely to have open vulnerabilities. Also, we can conduct regular code reviews and use automated testing tools to identify and fix vulnerabilities. For example, implementing a continuous integration with automated security scans to catch vulnerabilities early in the development process. Next slide, please. Testing and quality assurance process can help us to identify and address vulnerabilities, thus enhancing overall security of the system. For example, performing regular security scans and penetration tests can help to assess and improve the security and avoid common vulnerabilities. Next slide, please. So to summarize, here are our key takeaways. Attend to trainings to increase awareness of HIPAA rules. Follow best practices in security measures. If you're unsure that a tool, a software, or code library can be used, ask before installing or adding it to the project. Promptly report to your manager or responsible for the company's security area and quickly respond to incidents. Acknowledge and follow specific client policies. Try to identify any possible agreement that your client requires, and don't be afraid to ask if you have any doubts. Consider implementing a static analysis tool in order to identify vulnerabilities. And additionally, you'll have access to this presentation later. And at the bottom of this slide, we have attached 3 videos that explain HIPAA rules in a very simple and easy to understand way, so in case you want to review them. And that's it for the part 3 of our presentation.
Thank you, Vitor. And yes, so as you may see, we have added some additional resources on this slide, and the key takeaways that are going to be essential for you to read through. And now we're going to be allowing some time for Q&A. So I did notice that Damien had a question, so you can go ahead, Damien.
Cool, thank you. Great presentation, by the way. So yeah, those 3 videos that were provided as an additional resources are very interesting for you to look at, because they go over, they are basically put together by a company. The name of the company is Compliance Group, which is a company that helps other companies, and actually we are working with them in making a what they call gap assessment, looking into all the measures that we should have in place. They produce a report, and then we have action items to be able to comply, right? So those 3 videos are made by them, and they also have some Q&As or lots of examples, and then they have like a quiz. And it's very interesting, because one of the questions in there is like, so what if I plug a USB drive on my computer and I copy some data, and is this a violation to compliance, right, to HIPAA? And so I mean, if you want to be well versed in regards to HIPAA, those 3 videos are really interesting for you. That's pretty much it. I didn't have any question. I wanted to clarify this because those 3 videos in there are really good.
Yeah, and we agree. We actually decided to have them in there, like in the key takeaways, because we feel that it's very complimentary and has a lot of great information that will help also digest a lot more what HIPAA compliance is and how to remain compliant as well as a, as a engineer and also as a human being. But thank you so much, Damien. Now, not sure if there's, any other questions. This would be the time. So let us know if you have any questions.
Maybe as an additional piece of clarification, it's me again. So this company, Compliance Group, they provide us with a software where they put together all the training and tests, and they also extend some sort of certificate of completion when you go through some of those videos and questions and answers. And it's very likely that the ones that are working on a healthcare related project, they'll have to go through it, because it's not only getting up to speed with HIPAA, but also every single year there is a new release with updates to HIPAA that we need to basically catch up with. So it's also likely that once a year, it's like a 1-hour training that we'll have to go through it to see the news regarding HIPAA. So I mean, this is more to come. Basically, we are currently working in the gap assessment and putting together the first steps on that matter. But you'll hear from Compliance Group and all the tools that they will be providing to us.
Thank you, Damien, and yes. So as Tam, let me just let you all guys know that we'll be reaching within the next few days regarding that specifically. So you'll be hearing from us to follow up with it. So yes, Emmy.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. The workshop has been amazing. Thank you for the info. Yeah, you will be receiving if your project touches the PHI, the PHI. Sorry, you will be receiving an email tomorrow, probably. Your team is going to let you know when it happens, so you can check your email and register, and you will have the courses that you have been hearing from us as well. So everything is going to be in place tomorrow.
Thank you, Emmy.
Yeah, sorry, Anna.
Go ahead, sorry.
Raise the hand. Also, to ensure that we are cybersecurity compliance, I'm sure you had news about this 2 weeks ago, but we are trying to use multiple factor authentication together with apps like Google Authenticator in every important tool we use for work, meaning G Suite, Slack, even Trello, Jira, GitHub. So please, the deadline, I think it was September 15. So let's be sure that everyone has its own password manager, even if it's 1Password or Norton, which is free. Also that you configure the two-factor authentication with an app like Google Authenticator, which is much better than just SMS. So we will be in touch regarding that. The temps also here in BA, the core team, we will be ensuring that everyone has what they need to achieve that. Okay. I want to also take the chance to thank Anna, Nico, Vitor, but also Gene and Belu, Mika, all this hard work. Thank you so much. This was like we started working on this a month ago, and it was one of the best workshop. I was discussing that with Demian in Slack. This was one of the best workshops we had because it was so complete and with insightful information. So I'm really thankful for that. What else? Does anyone has any other question? Maybe dev related questions, because we had a section in which we talked about what devs need to take care of during coding sessions. So even if it's not now, maybe we can create a Slack channel to discuss this in the future. There are 5 or 6 projects that are health related, so I'm sure you guys have a lot in common and to discuss in Slack. Also, we are planning to do a similar workshop in the future about just cybersecurity and how to manage information in general, not just health, but financial or any sensitive information that a client might have.
Perfect, thank you, Micho. And well, as he mentioned, just to recap, any team member, any dev, any BEOner that has any questions or wants to raise any example that might have, some concerns about HIPAA compliance, we're open for questions, so let us know.
Well, maybe it's not maybe a question, but it's like a trigger of a topic that we could continue discussing on a channel. I think that's a great idea to have a channel to talk about this. But I mean, what about the responsibilities of someone working on a client, dealing with PHI information, and all of a sudden, having to report or face a breach due to code written by him, right? I'm sure that there are concerns on those matters. And again, we can continue having a conversation about this, but it's very important for you to know that this is training to comply and to have some guidelines to do our job in a way, at least we are not being negligent, right? And at least doing something and following rules to avoid this from happening. Now, what happens if we face one of these things? Well, we have a guidelines, we know what to do, and it's not necessarily something that we are guilty for, right? We are not going to go to jail due to, facing one of these things. The most important thing is to make sure that we are following the rules, that we can prove that we are acting in a responsible way, and that we are following the guidelines the government and the clients ask us to do. So I'll let you think about this, and we can continue having a conversation because it's a sensitive thing. And sometimes, it raises concerns and people get worried about, and it shouldn't be like that, right? We have to learn, we have to build things in a lawful way, in a way we are, following best practices, and that's it. And that's why that's the reason why HIPAA comes in place, right? So just throwing out a topic in there, and we can continue having a conversation about this later.
Sounds good. We'll make sure to create the channel. So, if there's any questions or any examples you might not feel sure about, you could share them there. And, we're going to be there to suffice any questions that you might have. Well, since we gave a couple of minutes for Q&A, but no more questions have arrived, then if we move to the next slide, just wanted to let you know that we have also attached additional resources and reference. So if you want to go to the core information and have like a depth, read through everything, you could go ahead and use those resources. And finally, just thanking you for being here, for also, attending and paying attention. And we'll also be around for any questions you might have anytime.